This is certainly one way to lose some weight. Let's get into it. Back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well out there. And today we're going to talk about a weight loss program, although one you probably don't really want to use. But before we talk about that, do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. Join me here. I would appreciate that. Today we're going to talk about the Stephen King adaptation, Thinner. Thinner came out October 25th of 1996. It's rated R. It's an hour and 33 minutes long. Had a budget of $8 million, and upon release, it only made $15 million. Now, if you're a horror fan, you know Stephen King adaptations were huge in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, 90s. They're still going on to this day. This was actually based on a book that he wrote under the pseudonym Richard Bachman. One of 7 books Stephen King wrote under that pseudonym. And Tom Holland was developing this for quite some time. Tom Holland co-wrote this script and he directed this film. Tom Holland is most notable for directing one of the best vampire movies of all time, Fright Night. He directed Child's Play. He actually wrote the script for Psycho 2, which is a fantastic sequel if you've never seen it. And the year before he did this film, he directed the TV special The Langoliers in 95, although I don't really think that's all that good of a movie. But he did that one as well before he took on this Stephen King adaptation. Now, in this film, we got Robert John Burke as Billy Halleck. His wife is played by Lucinda Jenny, and she plays Heidi. Joe Mantegna plays Richie the Hammer Ginelli, a mob boss, which he's played quite a few times through his career, even on The Simpsons. Carrie Warrer plays Gina, and she is the daughter of this, or the granddaughter of this, the head of this gypsy clan that's going through Maine that we get introduced to quite early in this film. And pretty much, Billy is this lawyer in Maine, and he took this case for Richie the Hammer Ginelli, this mob boss, and he gets him off. And they're celebrating, about to celebrate, and Billy is overweight. He likes to eat a lot, so he's an obese lawyer with this very attractive wife and this young daughter who's in her early teens, it looks like. They don't really go into her age, so him and his wife go out to the celebration dinner, and they're on their way home, and the wife decides to give Billy some road release, shall we say. And the old man gypsy, the patriarch of this gypsy clan, is in this pharmacy where we get a cameo from Stephen King in the pharmacy playing the pharmacist. And his daughter, which we find out, at first I thought it was his wife when I first saw this back in the 90s on VHS, because she looks just as old as he is. We find out later on that's his daughter and that he's 106. And she goes out to the car to get her coat, and she walks right out in the street. Billy's a little distracted, as you would imagine, and he ends up hitting the old woman, and she dies. So right away, he's going to court, and he's friends with the judge and the chief of police in town. And as a matter of fact, the judge in this movie is the same judge from The Shawshank Redemption as well. And they end up letting him off because the police officer says that he was doing the speed limit, he was intoxicated, and the woman was jaywalking, and she just walked right out in the middle of the street. So they end up letting Billy off the hook. Well, when Billy's walking to his car with his wife, the old man gypsy comes up to him and goes thinner across his face, and he walks away. And pretty soon, Billy starts losing weight at an alarming rate. And we do see his transformation from obese to getting thinner, and hence the name Thinner. And we also come to find out through Billy doing a little prodding around that the old man also cursed the judge, who's starting to get these skin lesions on his skin. He thinks it's cancer, and the chief of police, which we find out. So basically, the gypsy cursed all 3 men that he feels that are involved with getting Billy off for this horrendous crime. And pretty much we just see Billy deteriorating, and he's trying to figure out how to get out of this. And he doesn't believe it's a gypsy curse at first, but he calls Richie on the phone and asks, because Richie says, I owe you. Anytime you need anything, give me a call. So Billy calls him. And his mother is from the homeland, Italy, and he asks his mom, and his mom's like, yeah, gypsy curses are real. And he's starting to believe, because no matter how much he eats, he's just shedding pounds daily. He's shedding pounds after pounds after pounds. And he finds out from the judge's wife that the judge is actually hiding because his skin, he's starting to look like a lizard. And he finds out that the old man came up to him and said lizard to him. And now his skin's starting to look like reptilian, and he has like claws for hands. We never really get to see the judge, except for in his dream Billy has later on in the film when he goes to hunt down these gypsies to try to talk the old man out of taking the curse off of him. So to fast forward through some of the plot, The police chief commits suicide because he's all disfigured from whatever curse he has on him. And Billy finally tracks down the gypsies and he's pleading for mercy, pleading for mercy from these folks. And they won't do it. They're kind of laughing at him. And he ends up telling them, "You got the curse on you from the white man from town." And he takes off and he calls Richie. And Richie comes and helps Billy try to rectify things. And Richie ends up doing a few things to the gypsies, shooting up their camp and whatnot. Finally, the old man comes to Billy. And Billy's almost like skeletal at this point with skin on it. Really good makeup effects here. I got to give him props. That is definitely one of the positives of this film. The makeup effects are very well done. And the old man has this pie in his hands. And he stabs Billy in the hand and he puts the blood into the pie. And you see the blood, the pie sucking it in. He tells Billy to pass this curse on and get rid of it. He has to have somebody eat this pie in a short amount of time. It has to be pretty quick. And Billy, this whole time, has thought his wife has been cheating on him with the doctor. And they set that up a little bit. We never see it, but we get these little sense of, they show enough, the director, Tom Holland, shows enough to make us believe that there probably is something going on between his wife and this doctor that's supposedly friends of the family. So his plan is, because at this point he's becoming a vindictive dick, his plan is to go home and have his wife eat the pie to take on the curse and let her die. And that way he can live on with his daughter and he'll be free from this marriage where he's convinced that she's cheating on him. So he calls home and he tells his daughter to sleep over at a friend's house that night. So with her thinking she's gone, he goes home and gives the pie to his wife. She ends up eating it. He goes to bed. He wakes up the next morning and his wife's all disfigured and dead next to him in the bed. And he's kind of happy and jovial. He goes downstairs and he finds out his daughter's home. And she tells him that she ate some of the pie for breakfast and that she has to go have soccer practice, and she leaves. And kind of a twist ending. And Billy's looking at the pie, getting ready to eat it, realizing what he has just done, what he has wrought upon his family, just trying to get out of this curse. And the doctor stops by. And in a great final shot, Billy has this smile on his face. And he tells the doc, "Let's bury the hatchet, doc, over a piece of pie." And the doctor goes in the house. And that's the end of Thinner. What to like about this film? I think the acting's pretty good. I think Robert John Burke is really good here as Billy. His performance is a little slightly over the top, a little cheesy, but I'm digging it for the movie we got here. Because this is basically my feeling on this movie is it's like an extended Tales from the Crypt episode or one of the vignettes from Creepshow turned into a full-length movie. That's what this movie reminds me of. Because there's definitely cheesy moments and some of the acting's a little heightened. Although in a way that I kind of dig it. The acting overall is pretty good. And they really set up the world, this town in Maine. And a lot of the locations, they actually shot this movie in Maine, which most of Stephen King movies, they never shot in Maine. They shot this one in Maine. They shot The Graveyard Shift, which at VHS is behind me. They shot that one in Maine and a few other ones, but most of them never get shot in Maine. And a lot of these locations I've been to in my personal life, so it was cool rewatching this movie for the first time in a long time. As a matter of fact, if you want to watch this, it's on HBO Max right now. Makeup effects on for Billy is really well done, and his transformation getting thinner and thinner. They do a really nice job, and Robert John Burke spent 4 to 6 hours in the makeup chair, depending on what phase of that fat suit he was in. The revenge plot, things spiral out of control. Obviously, he wants to get revenge on these gypsies now that they won't take the curse off of him. So he hires Richie to come in and do some bad stuff to them. So it's basically going back and forth, eye for an eye kind of stuff, until finally the old man says, "Okay, you got to make the sacrifice." And the old man even tells him, what you should do is eat the pie and have a clean death at this point. But Billy won't do that. He has his eye on the prize and he's pissed at his wife. And that leads to whatever happens we don't see, but we know his daughter's going to die as well. Is this movie perfect? No. I think the directing's a little flat by Tom Holland, which I'm surprised at because I think he did such a nice job with Fright Night in the 80s and even Child's Play. Here, it's okayly directed, but it's nothing spectacular. It's competently made. Overall, this is not bad. I remember renting this in the 90s on VHS and watching it. I never thought it was the greatest thing, and I've only seen it a handful of times. But watching it last night, it's actually a pretty fun movie. I think it goes on too long. I think it's to its detriment that the movie just goes on too long. Like I said, this feels like an overextended Tales from the Crypt episode or a vignette from Creepshow. That's what this feels like. And watching again last night, it feels very apparent where feels like there's just some padding here. Like this story was never meant to go as long as it does. And it's only an hour and 33 minutes long. It's not like it's 2 hours or 2.5 hours long. But it just feels like an extended episode of Tales from the Crypt or something like that. The story is based in Connecticut, but Tom Holland decided to shoot this in Maine because that's where Stephen King's from. But at the end of the day, this is a fun little B movie that has some good makeup effects. It's not overly gory, but there's some blood definitely, and the fat suit effects are really well done. At the end of the day, I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. I actually liked it more last night than I did the last time I watched it. 6.5, 10 for Thinner. What are your thoughts on this Stephen King adaptation? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Share it. It's really great. Would appreciate that. I'll be back soon with some more reviews. But until next time, bye.